What's good, YouTube? Welcome back to Hall of Box, where I bring you all of the latest boxing news, the new up-and-coming fighters, the up-and-coming fights, and just everything that goes on in the boxing and around the fighting world. So before we get started, make sure you guys hit that like, subscribe button, and turn on the notifications so you can get all the newest updates on all the content that we drop about all boxing topics. Let's get to it. So, as we all know, Manny Pacquiao and Errol the Truth Spence Jr. are set to fight on August the 21st of this year at the T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas. And originally, this fight was going to be for Errol Spence's WBC and IBF titles, and they were looking to take Manny Pacquiao out of WBA Super Champion in recess and reinstate him as the Super WBA Champion. Once this fight had got signed and they actually, signed the contract for the fight, Manny Pacquiao put in a motion to get reinstated as the WBA Super Champion or the Super WBA Champion. As you all know, Yordenis Ugas, after Manny Pacquiao, who hasn't fought since July of 2019 when he won the WBA championship against Keith one-time Thurman in a nice clash between the two. He hasn't fought since that day, and he was in negotiation with UFC superstar Conor McGregor to fight him, which is not a top 10 boxer, a top 10 guy in the WBA rankings, to challenge for that belt. So he was going to go fight a UFC guy, and the requirements of the WBA for him to hold on to that Super WBA championship was for him to fight a guy in the top 10 ranking system for the WBA, which obviously Conor McGregor's not. So he was also in talks with Mikey Garcia, which that never came to fruition. A while back there was like some clamor, some talk, some chatter, some noise about him supposedly doing some sort of exhibition fight with Ryan Garcia, which he's not even in the same weight class. He's not even in the weight class under him. I believe Ryan Garcia campaigns at 135. Ryan Garcia is not really campaigning anymore. I'm not sure what that talk was about, because not too long after he started talking about these mental issues that he's having, so he took a step back from boxing. But anyway, so that's another guy who wasn't going to be in the top 10 ranking system for the WBA. So the WBA decided to give Yordenis Ugas the Super WBA Championship and put Manny Pacquiao in recess, if you will. He was champion in recess. So once he did get the fight with Errol the Truth Spence Jr., and once it was all sorted out and signed on the dotted line, he tried to appeal that decision and get his WBA Super Championship back. But it just came out that the WBA is not going to be giving Manny Pacquiao that WBA title back. Now, when a post from the Manila Bulletin, which is one of the sources that released this news, they actually quoted WBA President Gilberto Mendoza's reason why they will not be reinstating Manny the Pacman Pacquiao. And Gilberto Mendoza says, in his exact words, "No, it will not happen. According to the regulations, it cannot," said Mendoza in a raw English translation. "We are looking to have a kind of honorary figure that is understudy at this moment, but we cannot get him out of the recess he had because Ugas is already present there, and you cannot take away the rights that we gave to Ugas at any given moment." And he goes on to say, "Unfortunately, Pacquiao will not be unifying as we would like, but if we're looking for a legendary recognition for Pacquiao without any sanction or belt, it could not be done. It would have to be that the winner of this fight goes with Ugas. They have misrepresented an answer I gave a bit. They asked us to return from recess to Super Champion." I'm guessing that means they asked him to return Pacquiao from recess to Super Champion. "And that cannot be done. We are looking in this new cycle to prioritize what is super, regular, and interim, but that is a matter for another time." So that he's basically saying that they can't just take the belt that they gave Ugas just because Manny Pacquiao actually is going to be fighting a top 10 contender, actually one of the best in the division, if not the best. It's arguably out of him and Terrence Bud Crawford, but this is arguably a top 3 to top 5 pound for pound guy that he's fighting. Even though he is going to be fighting Spence in his next fight, they are saying that they cannot reinstate Manny Pacquiao and take the recess title away and just give him the belt back because they already gave it to Ugas. But he is saying that the winner of this fight can just go ahead and fight Ugas if they still want that title shot, which is what was going to happen anyway. If you guys remember, prior to the announcement of Errol Spence Jr. versus Manny Pacman Pacquiao fighting, they were already on the table with. I already thought the Ugas fight was set in stone. Errol Spence and Yordenis Ugas were supposed to be fighting to unify Errol Spence's WBC, IBF championships, and Yordenis Ugas' Super WBA champion. So now the Errol Spence Jr. and Manny Pacman Pacquiao fight are not going to be for the WBC, IBF, and the WBA belt, but instead they'll still be for Errol the Truth Spence's WBC and IBF belts, but just not the Super WBA belt. But they are throwing in the Ring Magazine belt, which is vacant at the moment. So the winner of this fight will take home the WBC, the IBF, and the Ring Magazine belt, which is vacant at the moment. That will make Manny Pacquiao a 4-division Ring Magazine champion if he wins it. I don't, in my honest opinion, think that Manny Pacquiao is going to win this fight. We haven't seen Manny Pacquiao fight since July of 2019 when he beat a former world champion, Keith one-time Thurman, for that WBA belt. At that time, he was 40 years of age, making him the oldest welterweight champion in history. Again, that's 2 years ago from this day. We're in July 2021 now. So that was 2 years ago to this date. So we haven't seen him in the ring since then. Again, he's 40 years of age. Father Time has never lost. Father Time doesn't lose. He's 42 years of age now. We'll just have to see what he does in the ring. Personally, I have Errol Spence winning this fight. It might go to 12. I need to look into it a little deeper. I have to watch some of the training footage that these guys are doing. They're saying that Manny Pacquiao is getting in pretty good shape. But again, Father Time doesn't lie. The man is 42 years old. He's much smaller than Errol Spence. Errol Spence can just keep the guy on the outside with the jab and win the fight like that. He doesn't have to knock Manny Pacquiao out. He can just outbox him, keep him on the outside. You guys already know Manny Pacquiao. He's very explosive. He gets to great angles, but he also comes in with his hands down at times. He comes straight in with his hands down at times, or comes in with a loose guard, and that straight could just put an end to his night. We've seen Manny Pacquiao get knocked out before. He's a legendary fighter, but he can be knocked out, and he's fighting a much bigger guy in Errol Spence than in his last knockout against Juan Manuel Marquez. Errol Spence is much bigger than Juan Manuel Marquez, and he pops much harder than Juan Manuel Marquez. So it's going to be a dangerous fight for Manny Pacquiao. So much respect goes out to Manny Pacquiao for even taking the fight after he's had a layoff for 2 years, because I thought he was going to fight Mikey Garcia. That was the fight I expected for him. That was the best matchup, for just his age, his size, and all of that I saw out there for him. I wanted Errol Spence to get the fight, honestly. I wouldn't have minded seeing Terrence Crawford fight him either, but I wanted Errol Spence to get the fight. I'm a Texas boy. Errol Spence is a Texas boy. I root for him, and he is the truth. I would love to see him fight Terrence Bud Crawford as well. But anyway, so again, it's commendable that Manny Pacquiao even took this fight. Should have been reinstated. But we're not getting those belts. We're just getting the IBF, the WBC, and the Ring Magazine belt. Now, they are saying, in a prior video, I did mention that Yordenis Ugas, being that it was looking like they were going to reinstate Manny Pacquiao as the Super WBA champion. So they promised Yordenis Ugas a spot on the undercard. Now, this is a talk. This is in talk. It hadn't been confirmed to my knowledge. But Yordenis Ugas is supposed to be fighting on the undercard of Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao, and that was supposed to be his I guess, severance package for not for getting the belt taken away from him, which, you know, now it's come out that he's going to get to keep that belt. So it's looking like we might get if they keep the card the same as they've been talking about, we might have 2 welterweight championship fights on the same night, where the WBA president is saying that if Errol Spence wants that belt, or if Manny Pacquiao even wants his belt back, then they're just going to have to go through Ugas to get it. If Ugas wins his next matchup, because I know he's not going to be waiting for them to fight. He already was promised a fight on the card of August 21st on the Errol Spence Jr. Manny Pacquiao fight card. So now they're rumored to be saying that Yordenis Ugas may be fighting former welterweight champion Andre Bertho, who we haven't seen fight since 2018. And, you know, I didn't even know Andre Bertho was still boxing. I thought when he won a split decision over Devin Alexander, you know, I thought he had retired after that. I'm not sure. There wasn't much. I hadn't heard much talk about Andre Bertho, but it's been rumored that he may be Yordenis Ugas' next opponent on the Errol Spence Jr. Manny Pacquiao undercard. For now, it's being reported that it'll be for the WBA Super Championship, since they're not reinstating Manny Pacquiao as the Super Champion. So that would be a interesting fight. You know, I'd have to, in this event, because I haven't seen Andre Bertho in so long. It's been, 3 years almost since I haven't seen Andre Bertho in almost 3 years. I'd have to say that Yordenis Ugas is more seasoned. He's more ready. He doesn't have any kinks that he has to get out of the way. He's going to win that fight. And the winner of that fight, we're going to get to, it'll probably be the next fight, which is a crazy thing, because Errol Spence Jr. went on record saying that after this next fight, he was thinking that he was going to have the WBA belt. He was thinking that Manny Pacquiao would be reinstated. There was a time where he was thinking that he'd be fighting Yordenis Ugas for the belt until he got Manny Pacquiao. So, I would have to believe that he was thinking that he would have the WBA belt. So Errol Spence did mention that once he beats Manny Pacquiao, his next fight, he wants Terrence Crawford, so he can become undisputed champion, which would give him the WBC, IBF, WBA, and the WBO, which Terrence Crawford currently holds at the moment. He was saying that he either wants Terrence Crawford so he can become undisputed, or he's going up to 154. Now, this throws a whole wrench in that plan of Errol Spence's, because now he's not capturing the belt when he fights Manny Pacman Pacquiao. He is getting the Ring Magazine belt, but he's not getting the Super WBA belt, which is one of the 4 major belts in the division. So, if he does, which I think he will, if he does beat Manny Pacquiao, he'll still have to go capture that WBA belt and go capture the WBO belt from Terrence Crawford. So this just brings to the question, will Errol Spence decide to prolong his stay at 147 pounds in order to capture both the WBA and the WBO belt, which is held respectively by Yordenis Ugas and Terrence Crawford? Will he go ahead and go take those 2 fights? He was already scheduled to fight Yordenis Ugas. Well, not scheduled, but he was already in negotiations to fight Yordenis Ugas. And I'm sure he still wants to capture those belts. That has always been the goal of his, was to lock up the entire division, take all the belts, and then move up. And, being that Terrence Crawford is up for renegotiations or going to be a free agent in October, where he'll be either re-signing with Top Rank, either re-signing with Top Rank and Bob Arum, or he'll be leaving Top Rank and Bob Arum, which I hope the latter happens. He needs to leave Top Rank and Bob Arum. Bob Arum has no respect for Terrence Crawford. Arguably the number 1 pound-for-pound fighter in the world. This guy should have way more publicity. He should be way bigger than he is. It shouldn't be any talks whether Errol Spence and him are a 50-50 match when it comes to the purse war. Because Errol Spence, we all know, he's fought the bigger guys at 147. Mind you, Crawford did unify I'm sorry, he did get unify and become undisputed at 140, but we're not talking about titles at 140. And the people on that 140 resume don't match up to anybody that not anybody, but the top guys that Errol Spence has fought, meaning Danny Garcia, Sean Porter, and now Pacquiao at this weight. And he fought a better version of Kell Brook than Terrence Crawford did. I understand Terrence Crawford fought him years later after he fluctuated in weight a whole lot and, went and won by devastating knockout, but he didn't fight the better version of Kell Brook. Sorry. It's just not what it is. So will Errol the Truth Spence Jr. actually stay at 147, the welterweight division, so he can capture all of those belts? It'll be just 2 more fights, 1 more than he originally expected, because like I said, he wanted Terrence Bud Crawford next. But now he'll have to go through Terrence Bud Crawford and Yordenis Ugas, or whoever has that WBA belt by the time Errol Spence gets there. Like I said, they were talking about Andre Bertho having that fight, but Andre Bertho out of his own mouth said that those are just rumors and he's not, there's nothing really to it. So that leads us to believe that, it's still open. There is no dance partner for Yordenis Ugas at the moment. He was on record a little while back saying that in his next fight, he wants somebody in the top, which, again, Andre Bertho is not, but he wants a top opponent, and he went on to mention Mikey Garcia, a rematch with Sean Porter, or Keith One-Time Thurman. And I said in another video that would be a real good fight. That would probably be Keith Thurman's best next opponent, because we were talking about Jaron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz called him out, and he went on and started sounding like he's about to start ducking Jaron Ennis, talking about he doesn't know who he is. But Jaron Ennis does have a little more work to do before he puts himself in a position to be able to, go really calling for Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman is in a better position, in my opinion, than him, but Jaron Ennis is going to be the future of that division. And Keith Thurman, you're going to have to see the boy. So, anyway, that does leave open the option for a Keith Thurman Yordenis Ugas match. Keith Thurman was on record saying that he wanted a champion. Yordenis Ugas is going to get to stay the champion. He had mentioned Yordenis Ugas before, saying that if Yordenis Ugas has a belt, then he'll go ahead and fight him for that belt, because he's looking to become champion again. Now, that right there would set up that fight that he's looking for with Errol Spence Jr. If Errol Spence Jr. does go out here and beat Manny the Pacman Pacquiao, that would be a huge... the way shit's forming up right now is huge. Because, like I said, Ugas mentioned Keith Thurman, and this would be a huge fight. This fight could probably hold its own weight. Keith Thurman and Yordenis Ugas could hold its own weight. But if that motherfucker happens to come on the undercard of not Terrence Crawford, but of Errol Spence Jr. and Manny Pacquiao, then it's going to be an even huger card. They're going to do huge numbers, because not all of these guys hold their own weight. Manny Pacquiao has a huge fan base, biggest probably fan base out there. Errol Spence has a huge fan base. Folks know who Keith Thurman is, even though he's had layoffs. We know who Keith Thurman is. He's a dog. I'm a fan. He has a nice fan base. He's kind of annoying, but as a fighter, I'm a fan, and the boy got hands. Can't take that away. I don't give a fuck what his personality talking about. The boy got hands. And Ugas is up and coming. He has a big enough name. He has a belt now, so it's going to be a championship fight. And with Keith Thurman as your dance partner in that would be huge. That would be a huge night of boxing, especially for the welterweight division. Like, it's like a welterweight competition going on in one night. You have the big dogs, Errol the Truth Spence Jr. and Manny Pacman Pacquiao fighting for 3 different belts. And then you have the smaller of the group, the up-and-comers, the ones who are trying to get to the position that Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao are in, and Keith Thurman and Yordenis Ugas fighting for another title shot that will lead up to the unification of all of those belts that were fought for in the next night of boxing with these guys. So that'll be a beautiful thing. So I don't know. Who do you guys think Yordenis Ugas should be fighting for his title? Should it stay on the Errol the Truth Spence and Manny Pacman Pacquiao undercard, or should they go ahead and set him up with Keith Thurman and take that to its own card? In my opinion, I want to see them both fighting the same night. I want to see it both on the same card. That's going to be a huge card on August the 21st. Huge night of summer boxing. I'm going to love that. But anyway, Y'all let me know down in the description what you guys think. Should they have those 2 fights on the same night, or should they just, spread out the wealth and, spread out the events so we can all have something to look forward to not too long after? Fuck around, put them like a week later or some shit. But anyway, that's all I got, y'all. You know what I'm saying? If you like the comment, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. So I'm going to be dropping content, at least twice a week. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking to do it every day, but I'm just, I'm always scrolling the news, the boxing scene news feeds, the Twitter pages, looking for any news, any breaking news to bring to you guys, anything going down that you might not see, any new fighters coming out. I'm going to start doing some up and coming fighter videos, so y'all stay tuned for that. I'm about to bring y'all the next guys coming out, because I should have called this early back when Jerron Ennis was first coming up. Right now, we all know who Jerron Ennis is. We all know who Virgil Ortiz is. It's this cat named Lorenzo Simpson or something like that. That's going to be a cat I'm going to bring y'all a video on. Lorenzo Simpson, he's out of Baltimore. I think he might be like a middleweight or some shit. Boy's a beast. His last fight, he didn't show that explosiveness that I was used to him seeing, but the boy is a dog. He's going to be legit. He's just coming up. He's getting all the rust up at him. He's getting everything ironed out, and he's going to be a great. Y'all going to hear about this cat here soon. But anyway, with that, I'm out. Y'all make sure to hit that like and subscribe button. You know what I'm saying? And just holler at your boy, fuck with your boy for more boxing content.